Alright guys, this week on Shift Points, we are going to jump into what worked, what didn't work during Sick Smokies, our first drag and drive event, and then kind of jump into just a few of the things that we learned doing the drag and drive, doing it for the first time, and all of the things that kind of go along with that. It was a neat experience, so let's jump right in. I told you guys I was going to talk you through a little bit of what worked for us and what didn't work for us on Sick Smokies. And honestly, what we're going to talk about, both of these things didn't just not work for Sick Smokies. They really haven't worked super well since we built the truck. And the first one of those here is our fuel tank. So this tank was kind of bought before you could just go buy an EFI tank, as easily as you can now. So Dad actually cut this hole in it for our fuel pump. So that hole there and those holes for the screws were all cut by him. This was just a standard in the frame tank. But we've had issues like this guy. We didn't scuff that paint off of that. The tank actually started leaking fuel there, and same thing there, and same thing here. And we had that covered up with some JB Weld tank weld. And then while we were on Sick Smokies, we actually put some more of that here, but apparently it seeped enough to where even whenever after a little while, it actually started seeping around the JB Weld still too. So this thing basically has just been a leaker for so long. When we first put this thing together, we accidentally left this plug out of it. There's a vent here in the top of this fuel pump made for a plug, and we don't have it. It's not there. And we thought, dang, that's where we're having a fuel leak from. We forgot there was some wires that laid over this at that time, completely covered it up. We just completely missed it. We're like, that's where it's leaking from. Once we plugged that, still leaked. Then we went and had to get a Viton rubber gasket to go around the fuel pump because we had a cork one, and when we took this fuel pump out, the cork just fell to pieces. So there was our second leak point. And the other thing that we have issues with is we have our tank. We initially had our tank vented out of this bung right here. Well, that would pour fuel up out of the tank, or up out of the vent. Then we vented it out of the fuel pump there, and if you get it too full, it still pours fuel out of the tank. So it's just been, and we have our vent in the standard right there, and you can see, if we look at it, we might have cleaned it off. Yeah, there you go. See like that black that's in there? That's where fuel has kind of run down through there. I am sorely disappointed in this, but we're going to do our best to make it work. We looked into a few different ways of doing it, but one of the aluminum ones from Speedway is like $450, almost $500, and we kind of hate to do that. And the other thing is this thing's mounted in there in that frame, and part of what these leaks maybe are being caused by is maybe there's some twist in it as we're doing this stuff, maybe especially when we had the leaf springs on it. It shouldn't be as bad now with the 4-link in it, but who knows? There's definitely some forces that are on it, and maybe that's what's causing our leaks here on these seams. But we're going to clean this thing up. We're going to take it to a good friend of ours, and he's going to clean it up really good for us. He's going to neutralize that fuel that's in there and make sure it doesn't turn into a big old explosion. That would be really bad. That's our worst nightmare. People come to us relatively often asking about welding fuel tanks, and more often than not we say no, unless we can figure out a way around actually welding it using like a seam sealer or something like that, or adhesive to put brackets back on, different stuff like that. We can kind of get around, but just straight up welding on a fuel tank, it makes us nervous. But Dad's good friend has said he feels confident, no problem, we can get this thing fixed up. I told you guys one of the things that didn't work was this fuel tank here. Now let's talk about something that really worked well. Dad's working in the background. These seats were a lifesaver in this truck for us. I know everybody sees them and they go, oh man, that must have been miserable to ride in those Kirkies for this entire trip. I honestly would have hated to do this trip in any other seats than these. These things are so ridiculously comfortable, and with us being as tall as we are, we fit in here so well with these. There's some cushion in these. I don't know if you can really see it, but there's about an inch or more of cushion here in this bottom section of this, and there's probably about 3/4 of an inch of cushion here in the back as well. So as far as that goes, they were cushioned, they were very comfortable, and these things just flat out worked. I wish we had done that when we first built the truck. I wish we had ditched the bench seat and done these. Like, that's like how good they worked. I can't like overemphasize how good these things work. And like I said, lifesaver for us on this. It gained us so much room here in the truck itself. We got plenty of leg room. I can literally straighten my legs here in the passenger compartment, and really comfortable to drive, really easy to kind of get up on the wheel and drive at the racetrack as well. So all around, this is really big and important part was having these seats in here. Now, one thing that didn't work, and it's much like the fuel tank, we've had issues with these since the very first day of this truck, and it's the brakes, specifically the rear brakes on this thing. Yeah, the front brakes did great. This here, if you look at this caliper, you can look in here and see this is wet in here. It's been leaking around the piston again. Now, this truck has 7,000 miles on it since we originally did it back for 2023 Power Tour. And this is the second one of these brake calipers that we have busted. Pulled it apart, and when we pulled it apart, what we found was there's this big wet spot on the back side of the tire, and what it was a brake caliper. Man, the brakes on this thing they have fought us every way, and we're actually probably pretty lucky to have got home because, yeah, right?
It's pouring right out of the center.
Yeah, right out of the center of this caliper, it was pouring brake fluid, and they said that whenever they pulled this brake pad off, it's like it broke the seal, and when that happened, it just started pouring. So those are gonna have to go away. We're gonna have to figure out something better to do with these. Now, we've talked to multiple people that use those GM style Cadillac calipers. Those things are off of like a 79 Eldorado, and people have literally had no issues with them. Colin at the Daily Misfire on that Nova, he has a set of them that I think he's been running, he said, for like 7 or 8 years. No issue. Now, is it quality of the part itself, where it came from? Maybe. But I see a bunch of reviews on like remans and different ones for those that have terrible reviews. So we are going to have to figure out a better brake system on this. Quick Performance makes a bolt-on kit for this 9-inch that is based off a Ford Explorer style brake system. And instead of having the emergency brake built into the caliper, it's actually built. It has brake shoes, much like you would see on a modern car. The brake shoes are inside, and then it has the brake caliper. That way, it doesn't have any. The caliper floats on there, and it doesn't have any contact with the rotor. These have a little bit of contact with the rotor all the time, and you have to use that emergency brake to make sure that they keep themselves adjusted out. And I'm just kind of done with those. Like, you can, if you love them, I'm glad you love them, and I'm glad you've had good luck, and we just flat out have not. So potentially going to go that way with this. I don't know. We're going to figure it out. But these brakes, something has to give, and we've got to figure it out because I am done working on these rear brakes especially. Now, I know it looks like I'm in like the Blair Witch Project under here because I'm under the truck, but I want to get to the next thing that absolutely worked. And like, we have just been like so happy with the performance of this, and it's our QA1 triangulated 4-link. These double adjustable shocks, the 4-link, everything on this absolutely worked. From the very first pass, we set those at just kind of a generic out of the box setting, and these shocks worked great. We got extension, which is what we wanted to plant the tire because we've got so little weight here on the back of the truck. So we wanted that, and so that worked perfectly. And we had absolutely no spin, and we had no wheel hop. And on top of all of that, this truck rides so much better. So between the seats and this rear suspension, it is like riding in a completely different truck. I mean, I wish I could get everyone that watches this video to have been able to ride in this truck when we first started, when we took it on Power Tour, and then take them and ride it today with this setup, with those seats. It is a 180-degree difference, and I am just so happy with this. QA1 knocked it out of the park. I know it took us quite a bit of work to get everything lined up how we wanted here in this truck, get our C-notch built and everything, so where the C-notch would capture in those bars. But the rear of this truck is completely so stiff. You can pick it up like this. I mean, no issues at all with any of that. The C-notch, the bars, just everything works. The only thing that didn't work was I forgot to tighten 2 of the lock nuts, and that's completely on me. Everything else, outstanding. Now, something that I would like to say absolutely didn't work and it wasn't our fault is the power steering pump. But that would be a lie. Because the power steering pump, while it did go bad during this trip, actually probably even before we left, it was definitely our fault. We battled a power steering leak on this at the rack for a long time, off and on. We think we have it fixed and it would start leaking. This went on back and forth for a long time. So, right at the end, we got that leak fixed. We got our fittings tightened up and got everything fixed how we wanted it. And we drove it. And when we got back, we realized that there was almost no fluid in the reservoir at all when we got back. That's because when we took the lines off of the rack, it bled all the fluid out of it. We put fluid back in the reservoir, thought everything was fine. But when it sucked it down into the rack, it drained the pump and it had almost nothing in it. And we believe that is what actually killed it. And you can actually hear that on, if I take the music off of our Tail of the Dragon video, you can actually hear that pump kind of howling throughout that whole part of Tail of the Dragon. But hey, we're not perfect. We've never claimed to be. We screwed up. We got a new pump on it now. That's going to make a big difference. Should work out pretty good. I'm hoping that's going to really take care of that noise that we heard, because we would hear it. We heard it from the time that we got this truck back down and going. Always had us a little concerned. And then in the right-handers especially, you could hear and feel kind of a chirk, 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 chirk noise. So that was 100% on us. Even though it was a 70,000 mile GM pump, it should have lasted a lot longer than that. One of the last things that I want to talk about that we did that absolutely worked on this truck was our nice little aluminum center console. Sometimes it is the simple things that make such a big difference. This guy right here, we cut those holes into that piece of aluminum and we made that tray that sits back there on the back. That was awesome. We had a place to put our phones, we had a place to put walkie-talkies, we had a place for our drinks throughout the day, bottles of water and things like that. Do not sleep on this. If you guys decide to do a drag and drive, make sure you have some sort of cup holder. Like I said, have something where you don't have to chase your phone around all the time. I know what we do is a little different whenever I'm constantly on my phone making videos and stuff, but everybody's on their phone all the time, and you need something. You need to have access to it. Don't want to have to be chasing it around and everything. Also, makes it a lot better, a lot less chance of an accident because you're not fiddling around trying to find your phone. So there's little things like this. That little center console was really, really nice and really helped us out along the week at Sick Smokies. A few things that we didn't bring with us that we should have. We left home without a bag of zip ties. Isn't that the craziest thing you've ever heard? Make sure you bring some zip ties. Bring some anti-seize. That's important. We had to stop at the parts store and get some of that. What else? There was other few little things that we were like, did we really not bring that? Some RTVs, some regular old silicone. We didn't have a tube of that. Things like that. That's really important stuff. And even I had asked people, like, what would you bring? And they gave us that list of stuff. And through the calamity and the chaos of getting all this stuff packed up and ready to go, we just missed some of those things. And so that's important. Take your time and kind of build up. And you might not even need to bring as many tools as you think, but you might need more of the things like that, like zip ties, just stuff that can kind of get you through little situations. At the end of the day, one of these events is an absolute pressure test. It's really hard on equipment. It's hard on you. I mean, you don't even realize how tired you are. I had one of our friends ask us about 2 days after. He said, or it was the Sunday after we got back. He said, "You guys get over your drag and drive hangover yet?" I'm like, that's kind of like what it feels like, man. Like you have like 2 days once you get home that you're like, holy crap, like I am exhausted. Like it just takes everything in it. And then we were trying to do the videos too, so you race, you drive, you get to the hotel. I dump all my footage off my cameras. I'm trying to put together a video. You know, you're going to bed for us, and like I said, we were fortunate because we didn't have anything break. But you know, I'm still not going to bed till midnight or later sometimes, 11 to midnight to 1 o'clock, because you're trying to get a video put together to get put out as well. So it's just a big, long pressure test on everything, your nerves and everything. But it is absolutely an awesome thing to do, and we're very glad that we did it. So now that we've went through the truck a little bit, you know, just some of the things that I kind of learned about drag and drive in general. You guys have to remember, I think a lot of people kind of forget, like the first pass down there in Alabama on Sunday was only my 5th pass at the drag strip ever, and it was now at a new drag strip. And so then I went from Huntsville 2 days in a row, and then the very last day and we were racing somewhere else. So I'm still kind of learning how to run everything, how to drive the truck, I mean, of course, I know all the things. I've seen it a billion times watching different people drag race, but just kind of learning how to do it and do it consistently and try and make sure I do the same thing every time at each track and learning each track. And that's probably one of the biggest things you learn is it is a full-on like drinking from a fire hose drag racing experience. If you've never done it before, I can't think of a better way to do it. It just fully immerses you in it. You're learning all these processes. You're never comfortable completely because you are, like I said, you're at different drag strips. You know, the return road's in a different place, the turn off to get onto the return road's in a different place, different directions off the track. So there's like a lot of stuff that it just keeps you on your toes. And probably I'm really glad that we kind of did it this way. We did my first 4 passes at Greer, got some seat time just to kind of understand the processes and all that. And then after that, jumping into Sick Smokies and just going to all these different racetracks. That was one of the coolest parts about it. 884, that's a new best. That's Freeman, right? Yep, 884. And after that, the biggest thing that I would say is doing the drag and drive stuff. It's a different group of people. Dad has talked about it already. Just the people there, it's even on a different level. I would say I've been involved in circle track racing a lot in the past 4 or 5 years now, going with Eugene and Spot and Prim, and the personalities different at a circle track compared to a drag strip, 180 degrees. The type of people and the kind of the brotherhood, if you want to, or the people that want to collaborate, want to help with you, want to make sure they want to see you succeed. That's completely different at a drag strip versus a circle track. But then there's even a difference with drag racing and this drag and drive experience. Everybody there wants to see everybody else do the absolute best that they can. Like you can tell it, you feel it in the air. When you pull in, you park next to somebody you've never met before, they immediately start asking you questions about how you doing, how's the truck doing, how's your week going, you know, how was your route yesterday, and almost all of them finish with, now if you need anything, you just let me know. We might have different cars or different engines, but if you need a tool or you need something, you just let us know. We'll see if we can find it. And if we don't know where it is, we probably know somebody that does. So the mentality of that, and I think that comes out of the Sick, the magazine group. You can tell that the entire people, the Keith Turk, Tony Turk, the families that do the help with the tech and all of that, everybody there has this mentality of like, we don't want to see you get hurt, we don't want to see you be stupid, but we want to make sure that we do everything that we can to see you succeed. And I think that's what makes this event super, super cool.
The Sick Smokies deals a different way of drag racing. I've drag raced a lot, but I've always hauled the vehicle to the racetrack, which gives you a whole other level of comfort, I guess you'd say, to get back home. This is AAA hauls you 200 miles. We was trying to figure out how to get that other 118 miles. So that was kind of what was on my mind. And a lot of this stuff that we did on this truck was untested. I was wanting to put maybe 500-600 miles on this thing before we made the trip. We ended up probably putting 50 on it or less. So good group of people. One of the things that really stood out to me is the people that were involved with the racing, the people that ran the show, the racetracks. Everybody was very helpful, and they were really went out of their way to be a help to you and it make you feel at home. So it was a neat experience for us. It was really a neat experience. The icing on the cake was a truck getting back home under its own power. Had some stuff broken, leaking, but we did make it back without a tow truck. So it was a neat deal. I would recommend it if you ever get the opportunity to participate in one of them. It's a very neat experience.
And one of the big things that I've seen people talk a lot about is like the entry to get into one of these events. Oh, you have to be a big time YouTuber, or you have to be a social media influencer to get into one of these events. Bullcrap. I mean, that is just not true. I mean, Finnegan was there. That was the biggest like YouTuber automotive personality that I knew of. And then Jimmy Dale was there. He had borrowed the Rotson from him. Those are kind of the two biggest ones that I would say, like, these are guys who make their living off of YouTube and racing in the way that they do. But like almost everybody else there, more than likely a big percentage of them had a YouTube channel similar to us, but they don't have over 1 million subscribers like Finnegan does. So like it's just regular people doing this. And if you want to be involved, when they announce that they're going to put those tickets on sales, go into Sick the Mag's website, get all of your information entered in there before registration starts. Get a card saved on file there, get your address and your name and all that stuff put in there. And so whenever they go on sale, boom, 2 clicks, you use Shop or whatever app that it takes you to, PayPal or whatever, 2 clicks, you're paid for and you're in. You got a ticket. Now you have to be like, the second that they go on sale, you have to be sitting there ready to go. When we got our tickets, we were actually in South Georgia for the first Sega race at the beginning of the season, and I stayed in the hotel room. The tickets went on sale at 9 o'clock. I was there at like 10 till 9, sitting there with my computer ready to go, had all that stuff ready to go. And like I said, about 2 clicks, you can have your everything that you need to buy a ticket to be able to get into one of these events. So it's possible. You don't have to have a big name YouTube. You can have a very small YouTube like ours, and just be a regular old person, or not have any YouTube. And it doesn't matter. They don't ask that question. It's not anything in there. There's also things that they do. Go on their website. They have expression of interest forms. So for next year, they're doing 666 again. It's the 100th anniversary of Route 66. Go in there. Go ahead and go onto their website if you want to do this, and fill out that expression of interest, and that will usually get you in. You can get some early access to get tickets, maybe potentially ahead of time. So there's ways to do it. It's sometimes maybe not publicized as much, or maybe you don't follow everybody on social media like we do, and so like there's things that come through on social media and stuff. So that's why I wanted to put it here. Just make sure you have your stuff saved ahead of time. You can absolutely get into one of these. And the last thing that I want to mention here is do it. Like, if you want to do it, or you've had the interest in doing it, me and Dad have talked about doing this for, I don't know, we've watched Drag Week for as long as I can remember. I think this is the 20th year of Drag Week, and we've watched it as long as I can remember on YouTube over the past at least 10 years. I know that we've consistently watched it, and we've talked about doing it, and I knew that if we didn't just sign up, and my plan was just to take the truck exactly how it was, leaf springs and everything. You don't have to tear down your stuff and try and take it all apart before you leave like we did, and do a complete suspension swap. Thankfully, we had QA1 to help us with that, and it gave us that opportunity to do that. But at the end of the day, we just signed up, and that's the big thing. If you want to do it, sign up and go. Doesn't matter if you're the fastest person. Who cares? That is completely irrelevant. Your speed at the end of the week compared to the others is completely irrelevant. It's a very big deal, and I'm not patting ourselves on the back or anything, but it is a big deal to just go to one of these events, do every racetrack, and do the entire route, and then get home. It's a big deal. It's taken us probably nearly a week to kind of let that sink in to how big a deal it was to, especially guys. I mean, Dad hasn't raced in a long time. I've only had 4 passes under my belt at the drag strip before we left. So, like, it was a big deal for us to take this thing that we've turned every bolt on multiple times and get it back home. Like, it was a big deal. So that would be my advice. And then at the end of the day, I think Tom Bailey says it best. And, like, why do you want to do drag and drive? I think he probably says it best, and I'll just let him tell you.